What's good, everybody? Hope that you guys are all having a super blessed day, and welcome to Sharpe News, the show where we talk everything surrounding football. I am your host, Marcus Sharpe, and let's get straight into today's news topics. So since we are in the NFL offseason, right now there's not a whole lot of news going on. There are a couple of high-profile draft picks that they have had their pro days, but we will be discussing that in future episodes. But right now, let's mainly just talk about the winners and the losers of free agency, because there were a ton of high-profile players moving all across the league, and so some teams definitely got better, while some teams seem to get worse. Now, you cannot talk about the winners of free agency without bringing up the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns fans have definitely won the offseason championships before the NFL draft has even started. We're talking about a team that already was on fire going into the offseason, and they added a ton of weapons to that already explosive offense. The Cleveland Browns received Odell Beckham Jr. and Olivier Vernon from the New York Giants. And in exchange, the Browns gave the Giants this year's 17th overall pick, a third-round pick, Jabril Peppers, as well as Kevin Zeitler. And on top of all of that, the Browns also picked up defensive tackle Sheldon Richardson. So before the draft, the Browns have already added a potential generational talent wide receiver, as well as helping secure that defense. The Cleveland Browns were clearly the winner in this year's free agency. So where there are winners in the NFL, there are also losers. And this year's top loser in free agency has to be the New York Giants. For all of my Giants fans out there, my heart goes out to you. Now, the Giants are a historic NFL franchise with a lot of dedicated fans. However, after the moves that they've made in this offseason, they've lost the trust of a lot of those fans. I mean, not only did they lose one of the most talented players in the NFL in Odell Beckham Jr., but they also lost two high-profile defensive players in Olivier Vernon and Landon Collins. Now, not all hope is lost for the Giants, seeing that they can turn things around in the draft. The Giants have a ton of picks going into this year's draft, and there are a ton of really good pass rushing options to pick from. The Giants can also help strengthen that offensive line through the draft, but time will only tell if those players pan out. If the Giants entered the season right now with their current roster, there would more than likely be a bottom 3 team in the league. And we don't have to go that far in talking about our next winner, seeing that our next free agency winner are the New York Jets. Jets, 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 Jets. Jets fans can be hopeful going into the season for the first time in a while. The Jets landed big fish linebacker CJ Mosley to a 5-year, $58 million contract. And on top of that, they got some huge help for Sam Darnold in picking up all-pro running back Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell sat out all of last season, and the Steelers opted to not franchise tag Le'Veon Bell. And because of that, Le'Veon Bell was rewarded with a 4-year, $52.5 million contract, with $36 million of that being guaranteed. However, with incentives, that contract can go all the way up to $61 million. Now, I need you guys' help here because I would want to know what you guys would have done. Bell sat out the season because he said he felt a lack of respect from the Steelers organization during his contract negotiations. However, it was reported that the Steelers offered Le'Veon a 5-year, $70 million contract. That's a lot of money. However, it is unclear how much of that money was guaranteed. From what I could find, the most that was guaranteed in that contract was around $10 million. Now, Le'Veon Bell did call the offers that the Steelers presented him as monopoly money because of how low the guaranteed money was. So it does seem like he is happy with the $35 million that the Jets did offer him. But I want to know what you guys would have done in Le'Veon's position. Would you have taken the Steelers contract with a higher total, or would you have gone with the Jets with more guaranteed money? However, you do have to remember, if you go with the Jets option, you are forfeiting around $16.5 million because you did sit out. I don't know, it's just a little bit of food for thought. Now, the Jets have a ton of options in the draft because of the signings that they made in free agency, so I'm expecting them to either go edge rusher, offensive line, or to pick up another receiver to help Sam Darnold. Now, the next loser is Dave Gettleman. Now, I'm not here to pick on the Giants. No, I truly want to see them succeed. However, I do not understand the moves that he is making. Now, the one thing that we do have to remember is that we do not know what the Giants ownership is telling Dave Gettleman, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that make the final decision. So it is possible that Dave Gettleman is doing the best job that he can with the restrictions that are being put on him. However, we can only go off of the information that we do know. Dave Gettleman said that they did not sign Odell to that huge contract just to trade him, and then went on to trade him. And last year, they picked up Saquon Barkley with the 2nd overall pick. And while Saquon Barkley is proving to be the real deal, Eli Manning is 38 years old, and he has been degrading for some years now, so the Giants really need to start looking at improving that position. They also kept Landon Collins last year instead of trying to trade him, and seeing the huge contract that he got from the Redskins, 6 years, $84 million, or $44.5 million of it being guaranteed, it seems like they could have got something nice from him. The Odell trade also leaves the Giants with a $16 million cap hit going into next year. The next winner is John Gruden, the $100 million man himself. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. After the Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper trade, I thought that John Gruden was out of his mind, but you know what? He might be onto something. And now, while Khalil Mack is a generational talent, he was surrounded by a bunch of mediocre players on that Raiders defense. They can now go ahead and draft a star pass rusher in this year's draft, and trust me, there are plenty of them. However, don't forget that they also traded Amari Cooper for an additional 1st-round pick, and they also picked up Antonio Brown for only a 3rd and a 5th round draft pick. I mean, how does that make sense? Amari Cooper goes for a 1st round pick, but Antonio Brown, the best receiver in the league, only gets a 3rd and a 5th. That beats me. And on top of all of that, the Raiders also signed Tyrell Williams from the Chargers. So this offseason, the Raiders got a ton of help for Derek Carr while also obtaining a plethora of valuable draft picks. I mean, the Raiders have 9 picks going into this year's draft, with 5 of them being in the first 3 rounds. Now, the Raiders currently are not a competitive team, but if they're able to hit on just a few of their draft picks while also having their free agents mesh well into the team, they could quite quickly turn around and become a very competitive team. Now, the last loser that we have to talk about are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this is kind of difficult to talk about because I truly do believe that the Steelers did not want any of this to happen with Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. I think if they could go back, they would do things a little bit differently. I mean, firstly, you have one of the best running backs in the NFL in Le'Veon Bell, who simply just wanted a little bit more guaranteed money instead of a higher total contract value. And then you have Antonio Brown, who has arguably been one of the best receivers in the NFL for the past couple of years now, and you only get a 3rd and a 5th round pick for him? I mean, we have seen some pretty good players come from the 3rd and the 5th rounds. However, you would have liked to have seen more of what the Giants got for Odell with somewhere around a 1st round pick. On top of that, you lost offensive line coach Mike Munchak, who has kept that Steelers offensive line as one of the top in the NFL. Now, it will be interesting to see how the Steelers recover from this. Now, the Steelers do have both Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown's successors in position in James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster respectively. It will just be interesting to see if they're willing and able to take that step and be that #1 guy for year in and year out. And lastly, we have the neutral teams that lost a lot of talent while also picking up a lot of talent. Now, the Ravens lost CJ Mosley while also cutting Eric Weddle and Alex Collins. However, they were able to land big-time safety Earl Thomas from the Seahawks. And they were also able to sign Mark Ingram, who should be able to take some of the pressure off of Lamar Jackson. That is, if he's able to stay on the field, seeing that he was suspended for the first 4 games of the 2018 season for a PED violation. And the last neutral team that we're going to be talking about is the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the Niners are an interesting team because they've made a lot of moves over these past couple of years. However, we still have yet to see if those moves have panned out. Last year, they had Jimmy Garoppolo, Pierre Garçon, and Jerick McKinnon all get hurt for big portions or all of the season. However, the team did see a huge bright spot in their tight end George Kittle as well as their running back Matt Breida. Now, Breida had a pretty good year, seeing that he ran for 814 yards in 14 games with a 5.3 yards per carry. But when you compare that to George Kittle's record-breaking season, you know who Niners fans are most excited about. George Kittle had 1,377 receiving yards as well as 5 touchdowns in 16 games. And he was elected to his first Pro Bowl. Now, the Niners also added a ton of help to their defense, picking up Dee Ford and Quan Alexander. Now, Quan Alexander is coming off of a 2018 season where he tore his ACL. However, Dee Ford is coming off of a great year where he had 13 sacks. Now, the Niners could be a very interesting team if their injured players are able to come back to form quickly and if all of their new free agents hit perfectly. All right, you guys, but that is all of the news that I have for you guys this week. If you guys enjoyed this, please be sure to hit that like button. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you guys can stay on top of all the videos that I'm coming out with. But with all that being said, I hope that you guys all have a super blessed rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Ciao.